Ready.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Clarkston Independence District Library Board of Trustees meeting for June 10th, 2024. The meeting is called to order at 6:31. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Jan Gaffney.
Here.
Tim Holcomb.
Here.
Allison McFadden Kiesling.
Here.
Nancy Moon.
Here.
Alan Panter absent. Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here.
Maggie Sands.
Here.
Julie Meredith here.
Right. It's now time to approve the agenda. We do have an addition, approval to pay Windstream Enterprise invoice. I will take a motion.
I make a motion to add item number 6 under, let me make sure I get the right section, regular business for the approval to pay Windstream Enterprise invoice. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any nays? Motion approved. Call to the public.
That's
I do not see any public tonight.
No public tonight.
They're out there enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah.
I will now accept a motion to accept the 9 items on the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. There are 9 items. Is there any item that anyone has a question about? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion is approved. Okay, Friends of the Library report.
Becky contacted me and she's unable to come this evening, so no
Library.
report. No report from the Friends this evening.
In that way, we'll move on to the library director's report.
So CIDL strategic plan community survey launched on June 3rd and will be available through July 8th. The survey is being promoted on the library's website, through social media, at library programs in the Clarkston News, through our community partners, and at a variety of outreach events such as the Food Truck Rally, the Clarkston Farmers Market, and the 4th of July Parade. It can be accessed online through a QR code or in print and is also available in Spanish. And there's a handout at each of your places if you want to help us promote that. The library strategic plan technology survey for staff has been completed, and technology and planning team is reviewing the input with our technology consultant. Our technology planning team partnered with our strategic planning team to incorporate questions that are technology specific into the larger community survey so that feedback will be gathered alongside comments about other library programs and services. The learning report that will be reviewed at the staff and board retreats in the fall will include all strategic plan and technology feedback gathered during this entire process. On Wednesday, June 5th, Connecting Clarkston held a Clarkstonopoly launch party at the Clarkston Family Farm. The Clarkstonopoly game has been created to feature local businesses and organizations. The Friends of the Library contributed to the project on the library's behalf, so CIDL is represented as a property on the game board and also has a game card. As part of our participation, we received a copy of the game for our family game night collection. We will have a copy for patrons to check out from our circulating game collection, and we have 4 that we will be giving away as prizes this summer. So thank you to Connecting Clarkston for their hard work on this exciting project, and you can download the Connecting Clarkston app to learn more about this organization and their projects.
Excellent.
In response to the vandalism of the Story Walk, we have purchased remote cameras to allow us to monitor that area. The cameras have been installed and testing has been going well. On Saturday, June 15th, the library will launch its annual summer reading program for all ages at a kickoff event from 1 to 3. With the theme Adventure Begins at Your Library, festivities will include a reptile show, interactive balloon artist, and more. Participants log their reading throughout the summer on Beanstack, the library's summer reading program app, and receive raffle tickets to enter a drawing for gift baskets. A variety of fun and interactive programs will have community members visiting the library all summer long. Any questions about any of those things so far?
No.
All right, well, moving right along. Once again, I will be part of the Library of Michigan's peer review team for the Library Services and Technology Act, known as LSTA, Improving Access to Information Grants. Orientation will take place later this week. Each reviewer will be assigned 6 grant proposals to read over the next several weeks. The review teams will all come together at a meeting at the Library of Michigan in Lansing to discuss the proposals and make recommendations for grant awards on July 23rd. So I'm looking forward to being part of that program again.
It's been a busy time.
It has been a busy time. Yes.
All right, now to regular business. Item number 1, reviewing our investment plan.
Okay. So, a subcommittee of Jan Gaffney, Nancy Moon, and Julie Meredith have been working on a library fund investment project. Step 1 was assuring funds are insured, and that is complete, and implementation of ICS sweep on the government banking checking account at Flagstar Bank that holds the library's fund, operating fund. That's already taken place. Further work will take place in this account in terms of investing in step 3 of this project. Step 2 of the project involves creating an investment strategy for non-operating funds. This includes the library's fund balance and capital improvement fund. At the library board meeting in March, 2 investing options were discussed: an institutional brokerage account with Fifth Third and a SIDR's account with Flagstar. Both programs met project goals 1 through 3, while Fifth Third proposal also met goal 4 as a brokered solution that provides support to library staff in managing investments. At that time, Kevin Mattaway, who would be the local broker assigned to our account if we choose this option, provided a sample U.S. Treasury ladder for a portfolio of $1.2 million. The board wanted to investigate Fifth Third's proposal further and requested a bank representative attend the board meeting to answer questions about the proposal. The sample U.S. Treasury ladder has been updated with current rates. The spreadsheet of available funds for investment has been updated from the May bank statements, and Brian Downs of Fifth Third will be joining the library board via Zoom to answer any questions. So I have Brian here through Zoom for you.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to participate tonight.
Thanks for being here.
It sounds like everyone has in front of them what we were proposing in terms of the investment strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so what we were looking at is to put a portion of the funds into a money market fund, which is completely liquid, and as of last Wednesday was earning 5.17%. So those funds can be accessed anytime. And then in addition to that, laddering out treasuries over a 6-month revolving maturity program. So we would start off with buying a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, and 24-month. So every 6 months, a portion of those funds would be maturing, and then they could be reinvested, or if they were needed at that time, it could be transferred to a deposit account. Now, the yield curve right now is inverted, which is highly unusual, and so you'll notice the shorter term treasuries have a higher yield than the longer term, which again is highly unusual. But one of the rationales for having this ladder program is to take advantage and to lock in these higher rates for up to a 2-year period. Interest rates are elevated right now. You know, for over a decade, where interest rates were very low, but now with businesses and government entities who have excess cash, it's definitely a good time to be able to invest those funds and take advantage of the interest rate environment. Does anyone have any questions regarding the investment strategy or the investments themselves?
We had discussed this at a prior meeting, and we do want to make the best use of our funds in terms of generating interest so that we could use that money for the furtherance of library projects. It sounds so far like an excellent plan.
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to broaden our relationship with the library, and look forward to strengthening the relationship. And we do feel that this would be a good investment strategy for those funds. Our investment brokerage group works specifically with government entities on their investment strategies. So this is something that FitTher does every day. Kevin Mataway would be your assigned investment person that would work with you and help executing these transactions for you. And he's local. He lives in Davison.
Okay.
What kind of documentation will you be sending to Julie on a regular basis?
I'm sorry.
What kind of information or documentation will you be sending to Julie Meredith on a regular basis?
So we would be, providing updated rate information really as frequently as you'd like it. To open the account, there's just a few documents which we've already provided to actually open the account. And as I mentioned before, we're able to transfer any funds from the investment account directly into the FitTher checking account.
And you're the ones who would trigger us when our 6-month was starting to approach for us to decide how to reinvest?
So we would start with purchasing each of those, 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, and 24-month.
Right.
So every 6 months, one of those is going to be maturing, and then you can decide to reinvest that, or if those funds are needed, those are available to you.
No, but I'm saying as we are at 5.5 months, you will be the one to notify Julie that, 6 months is coming up, you need to make some decisions. We don't have to do any monitoring ourselves.
No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, definitely. So actually, someone on Kevin's team would be reaching out to you and letting either Kevin or someone on his team would be reaching out to you and say it's maturing in 30 days. Do you have thoughts on what to do with it at that time? And if you say reinvest it, then nothing else would be needed on your end. We would just reinvest it as that matures.
Were there any other investment options that you would recommend other than what you've put before us that we should be considering?
I mean, there are other investments that are available to you, which would still be in compliance with what government entities are able to invest in. Mm-hmm. But given the risk profile that what we heard, we thought this was the safest and as well as returning the best yield for you. There are government agency bonds that are available to you as well that just have a slightly different, slightly higher yield, but they're sort of one step below treasuries in terms of safeness and soundness. It's still coming from the government, but it's just slightly, has a slightly higher risk profile, and the yield, there isn't that much difference. That's why we see many government entities just investing in treasuries.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I feel like Alan had a question about, Brian, what are the penalties if something were to happen and we would need to access any of this money in an emergency? I think that was a question that came up last time that I didn't know how to answer.
Sure, yeah, there's no penalty, unlike a CD where you're definitely going to be penalized for withdrawing early. With a treasury, it's really going to be dependent on what interest rates have done since the time you executed on the trade when you purchased it. Now, the great thing about treasuries is they're highly liquid. There's always a market for treasuries. So what would happen if you did need this, needed to sell early, we would go out to the market and look to sell that. It depends on what has happened to interest rates on what you would get for the sale of that purchase. But you're going to be able to access those funds. The amount that you're going to get is dependent on what interest rates have gone up or down since that time.
Okay.
And that's why we're also recommending that portion in the money market fund, which is always liquid. There's no sale involved. So that gives you a little bit of cushion on your liquidity.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if we needed the money out of our 6 months and interest rates have gone up to 6.5%, then we're going to get the 6.5%? We bought it, here it says 5.24. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so you're saying when it matures?
No, let's say I have to go early and I have to sell it. You said if I sell it early, it depends upon what the interest rate is at that time. So if my 400,000, let's say I had to sell 200,000 of it in month 5, and month 5 now the interest rate was 6.5%. What do I get on that 200,000 that I had to sell early?
Yeah, so it's going to be dependent upon the amount of that 200,000 that you get back is going to be dependent upon what has happened to the interest rates at that time. So the way treasuries work is when it matures, you're going to get $200,000 back. So you actually purchase it at a discount. So just for an example, you're going to purchase it for $196,000.
Right.
And then you get it back, get $200,000 back.
Correct.
So you go to sell that early, it's going to depend upon what interest rates are at to know the amount that you're going to get from that $195,000 or $196,000 of the original purchase.
But
Does that make sense?
But if the interest rate has gone up, do I get additional funds?
You're going to, yes, you will get an amount above the $196,000. But it would be less than the $200,000.
Because the
Yes.
investment wasn't in there the whole period.
Right, yeah,
So that's gonna have an impact too.
yeah.
And hopefully, that would not be
Right.
necessary.
Hopefully we've planned this perfectly.
Perfectly, yes.
But again, the benefit, one of the benefits of getting a treasury is highly liquid, that
Right.
you're always going to be able to sell, if need be, sell that. And given that we're looking at relatively short maturities, there shouldn't be that much fluctuation from that principal amount that you originally purchased it at.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Are earnings on that interest automatically compounded back in and invested, or how's that work?
Yep, so just put the scenario we talked about earlier. Let's say there's a treasury that's maturing, 30 days out. Depending on what you want to do with that funds, you would get that $200,000 back into your investment brokerage account, and then we are either going to reinvest it at whatever that current rate is that we would obviously let you know, or if they can be transferred to your operating account. That again, you're purchasing something at a discount and getting that $200,000 at maturity. And then based on what you want to do with those funds, we'll reinvest it or move the funds.
But likely we would be, if we were going to reinvest it at also, like at purchasing it at a discounted price, then the difference between the discounted price and the 200,000 just goes into our regular account, okay?
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Does the board need further discussion, or are you ready to make a motion?
I make a motion that the board seriously consider investing this money rather than sitting there. I mean, especially if we can get some of it at 5%, that's pretty darn nice.
So are you approving the resolution?
So I approve the resolution, yes.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution of authorization to open an institutional brokerage account and authorization for securities investments as presented. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Oh, this one's a roll call.
Do we have a question? Roll call.
Resolutions are roll call.
Roll call, excuse me.
Please.
Please call the roll.
Thank you. Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Tim Holcomb,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Kiesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes,
Maggie Sands.
Yes.
Thank you.
motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
thank you.
joining
Thank
us
you.
tonight.
Thank you very much. Hope everyone has a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate your time.
Now we will discuss review of the updated ACH vendor list.
Hang on, let me flip through all the brokerage stuff.
Yeah, there's quite a few pages in the third proposal.
All right. Whoop. That's not the right one. There we go. Okay. In 2023, an ACH and electronic transactions policy was approved by the board. As part of that policy, the board approves a list of vendors that are authorized to receive ACH payments from the library. While the policy states that this list will be updated and approved by the board at least once a year, the library does begin working with new vendors from time to time during the year and may need to be considered to be added to this list. The administrative staff has identified 3 additional vendors that we would like to be added to the list for streamlining payments. So Aflac was one that we hadn't thought about before. Walnut Hill Bookkeeping, that's our bookkeeper, and Warner Brothers is our new lawn mowing service, and when we approved the contract, it didn't occur to me to ask to add them to the list until we went to pay them and thought, well, that would have been convenient if I had thought to do that, but I'm not used to asking for that when we do contracts. So, oversight on my part.
So little by little, this process is coming to fruition.
We're getting better at it. Some of them are a struggle, ones that we had hoped would be taking ACH. Some of them don't. DTE does not. And there's a couple of others that would be helpful if they did that don't. But other ones do, like MailTech and Consumers Energy. Some of those are much quicker. Baker and Taylor, TLN, those are all very helpful to get those done very quickly, so, yeah.
Okay, any question about that? Those of us who are signing these are getting used to the process
Yes.
of validating and signing the ACH.
Yeah, it is a little different with the ACHs, but.
But we're all getting used to the process.
We're starting to get a rhythm to it.
I'll accept a motion to approve the updated list.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated list of vendors authorized to receive ACH payment as presented.
Second.
All right. It's been approved, the motion to approve has been made and seconded to approve the updated list of vendors authorized to receive ACH payments as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Now, for the ongoing discussion of the EV charging project quote.
All right, so last summer, Nancy and I began researching the possible options for installing an EV charging station with 2 ports in the library's parking lot that would be provided by Bowman Chevrolet. We met with electricians and began the process of setting up a meeting with DTE to investigate how the stations would be powered. It became clear that this would be a complicated project and that the library would need an electrician to act as a consultant as we considered the feasibility of this project and negotiated the details with DTE. In March, after reviewing the estimates of 3 electricians, Nancy and I recommended Oak Electric as the contractor with the most direct experience with EV charging work similar to our potential project. The electricians provided quotes for executing the project itself, but did not include any pre-work involving the negotiations with DTE. So Nancy and I also recommended that we approach Oak Electric and request a quote for consulting services to assist with feasibility conversations with DTE prior to committing to the project. It was intended that Oak Electric would provide an additional quote for consulting work separate from the project quote. That way, if the library decided the project was not feasible, the consultant would still be paid for assisting us in working through the decision process. However, Oak Electric provided a response with a single price that indicates that they feel they have the ability to move the project forward using connections at DTE to assist us with rebates and incentives that could make the project possible, and that if the library decides not to move forward with the project, there would be no charge.
That's nice.
It is nice. Nancy has talked to him.
But they're not really providing any additional information, which is kind of what we wanted, right?
Well, Nancy has talked to him, I have talked to him, and he is holding firm that they would like to just move forward with the project. They feel that they have the ability to help us, that there are rebates and incentives available, that if we wanted to move forward, they could make that workable for us.
It's kind of hard, though, not knowing how that's going to work.
I know.
And how much that's going to cost.
Right, yes, that too.
Well, basically what he's saying is that if we determine that even with the incentives and the rebates, it isn't worth it, we're not going to do it, he will say no problem and walk away and not charge us anything.
Yep.
But he would like to try. I couldn't convince him to just charge us. He said, that's not how we operate. We don't charge consulting fees to do those things. We do quotes all the time, and sometimes projects get done and sometimes they don't, so. We tried.
I do agree that having charging stations here would be a service. And people usually are in the library long enough to become charged
Right.
while they're working on their projects or reading or whatever they're doing. And since we are obviously going to have some electric vehicles, even though the discussion about moving to a less gas-powered society is still continuing, at least some people will be driving electric vehicles.
What's the downsides to this? What's the downside to this?
Well, so here's the worrisome thing. When we talk to the electricians say DTE should pay to cut the trench, put everything in, set the power, and that all we would be paying is for the electrical work, which is like $5,800. When we talk to DTE, they basically say, no, you're going to pay the electrician to cut the trench, and then we're talking about a project that could be $15,000, $20,000. Depends on who's going to cut that trench and put that. DTE is saying, no, we only do to the pole, and the electrician is saying, no, DTE does this for other people, they should be doing this for you, because you're asking for a new line of service.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just because it's a specific purpose doesn't mean it's not DTE's responsibility. So basically what Nancy and I came to the conclusion is we need somebody who has enough electrical knowledge to fight on our behalf because basically we've got the person from DTE saying, no, we're not going to do it, and the electrician saying, yeah, get in there, they're going to do it for you. So,
So Julie, is the scenario that,
Sorry, go ahead.
is the scenario then that we would go down the path with Oak Electric, negotiations back and forth with DTE, and then this matter would come back to the library board for
Yes.
consideration of whether we pull the trigger or not?
absolutely. The idea is Oak Electric wants the opportunity to tap into their connections to see if they can get it to a price that we would be willing to do the project.
But we can say no at any point.
But we could say no if we don't want to do it. They
So
are
this is-
not,
Sorry.
they're not saying that they're going to charge us $5,800 to do this project. When we talked, I think it's going to be a couple of meetings with DTE, and we'll know for sure whether or not they're going to be able to move it forward to a point where we can afford it, because they know this is a service for us. This is not.
Right, and it's not a service that everyone in the community will be using, so
Right.
we need to minimize
Yeah.
our cost
Yep.
on a service that has a limited use.
Well,
Which is fine, because not everybody uses every service we provide. So I think that, I'm comfortable with that, but I do think it's important that we, and maybe before that, like get formulated in our head, what is our cutoff cost for
Right.
this?
Right.
We have a budget and a limit, And, sometimes when you get into these things, you're like, well, if it's just an extra little bit, then you kind of talk yourself into a higher price. And I just think we need to sort of settle on, at least individually, before we come to that board meeting about
And
where we
I
think we
agree,
are.
that's a great approach to it.
But you feel we should investigate?
The situation that we're having is right now, it feels like there's a huge range of potential cost. Anywhere from, no, DTE is going to take care of this, which sounds too good to be true, to it could be $20,000 or more, which is way outside of what I'm willing to pay for a project like this. I mean,
Right.
Right.
So it's somewhere in the middle, we have to, I think Maggie is making a perfect point.
Yes.
Is that I think we need to kind of determine how much are we willing to maybe dip into our capital improvement plan money in order to do something like this? How beneficial is it to the community? We're seeing more people with electric vehicles. We've got staff that have electric vehicles. Is that going to make a difference to them, about taking a job? Maybe not. But is it something that shows
Right.
that we are innovative, as it says in our mission statement? Yes.
If there's no cost to us, I don't see the harm in pursuing the conversation as long as we are all steady-minded
Right.
on making the right decision for the CILD.
And I like the fact
Yeah.
that we can say no. I mean, even though they're not saying it's consulting, that sounds like that's what this is, without it.
It's definitely
It's not
what
part
this
of their
is.
model.
Yeah, without it being called that.
Their model is basically saying, we're not going to charge you a separate amount. If this goes forward, we're going to charge you the $5,800, which includes all the consulting work that we did on the front end. And if at the end of it you say, DTE says, forget it, it's going to be $20,000 and it's out of our price range, they're willing to go with the goodwill that it created for us.
And if it's
It
58
expresses a level of confidence they have that they can make progress on it.
I think that's what he's trying to tell us. He felt like he had some connections that could get us rebates and in order to go in on our behalf and say, this is a library, an educational, you should be treating them like a school, not like a business.
Right.
So,
Do you know other libraries in the community that have done this and how it went?
I was going to chime in on that. Actually, there's a public library southwest of Lansing. It's Charlotte Public Library, I believe.
Yeah.
And they actually have 2 level 2 charge point chargers in their parking lot. And from what I remember, they're not located adjacent to an electrical drop necessarily. They're actually pretty central out in a parking lot, which means they would have faced a similar situation where they would have the demarcation point where the utility drops off and then trench work or
Yep.
what have you at that point. But that would be Consumers Energy versus DTE because it's a different service territory. So
Different service territory.
it may be worthwhile to reach out to, if that is the library, I'll double check, but if
absolutely.
there's somebody there that might be able to provide some input with respect to how their experience was. So.
But not just the installation of it, I think the rest of that question is how does the community use it? Is it useful in the community? And how does it work from the library end servicing it? How does this library handle that? I mean, the logistics of it, it's one thing to put it out there.
Yeah, some of that information is publicly available on there's a website called plugshare.com, and it's all publicly aggregated user data for EV charging facilities. So I've used it all the time when driving around. So
You've driven one,
yeah, we have all electric at home, so
Okay.
it's kind of familiar with the
yeah.
pitfalls of the experience. Yeah.
Well,
And it's part of the reason that we're interested in doing this because I don't have an electric vehicle, but I have family members that have electric vehicles and, their experience with traveling specifically and, the limited places that they can go.
It's
to get
definitely
charging
a
done.
emerging, transitioning thing.
It definitely is.
Now,
yeah.
my other question is, as the technology is emerging, are we going to put this in and it's going to become obsolete because they're going to have a better charging
the big
technology?
I don't really think so because right now the going standard is called a CCS plug. That's it's like a combined. It's basically the type of plug standard that's
Like a
been around for a
standardized
long
plug?
time. However, Tesla has been really kind of into the background pushing for the NACS, which is like a North American charging standard. And most of the automotive OEMs have coalesced around that being the standard going forward.
Okay,
So the way that will manifest itself for the user experience is they'll probably provide adapters And any charging facility would likely have like the equipment to
Adapters.
Sure.
like adapt to that. So I don't really foresee that being a
Okay.
liability per
'Cause
se,
that,
but
that was one of my concerns, as the
Yeah.
technology keeps
Yeah.
changing. Are we gonna have something obsolete by the time we?
And then more cost to update it.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to get in that boat. So.
We also don't want to be Luddites. We don't want to be behind the times either.
Right.
It's a fine balance.
Well, and the other thing is a conversation with Bowman as well to see what it is that, I mean, it's GM providing this, which is a generous offer. By the time we get to that process, they may be offering something different than what they've been offering us as well, so,
Sure.
So let's further the conversation.
okay.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's good.
One last question. Is
Mhm.
Bowman the one who helped with the city of Clarkston on those stations? Is
So
that different?
Bowman just provides the station.
Mhm.
The city of Clarkston signed a contract with State Electric, which is one of the other ones we looked at. It was an all-encompassing deal. Basically, they signed a contract that said state owns the charging stations and all of that. It was like a 10-year contract. That was a little bit more than I was willing, so we kind of stepped back from that particular offer, and we were more interested in going forward with specific electricians and kind of keeping control of our own parking lot.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. Like it.
And it is some of this, the dealings with DTE is where they had issues
Mhm.
at the village. Because having worked in the utility business for a long time, DTE was very accustomed, whenever they put in a new line, the commission always granted them the approval to put a tiny bit of extra in the rate case that all of us paid. That's not a given anymore. But there is something unique at the commission for EV chargers. And I think that's what Oak Electric is saying. We want to tap into that because we do know the commission is giving DTE and consumers a little extra, you know,
And they should pass it on.
and they should pass it on, exactly, you know, to all of us.
Yeah. Okay, so Nancy, do we feel like we have enough direction to keep going forward?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we just set up a meeting with DTE and.
Okay. And have Oak Electric help us on that
Right,
path.
and I think what
Okay.
we really have to stress is, this was originally school property, and when it's a school, DTE will bend over. They bend over for schools, and
Mhm.
so this was school property, we're right next door. I agree, I think,
We're an educational institution.
yeah, it's,
Mhm.
I think. we-
Self-education, but
Mhm.
Education on the list.
yes.
It is right in our quitclaim deed that this property was provided for the purpose of building a public library to serve the community and the students. So,
I think we use it.
Okay.
use that
So
to our
the discussion
advantage.
will move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, the updated holiday policy.
Okay, in March, the library board approved an updated employee handbook. It consolidated all the employee policies, many of which were standalone policies. Because of the magnitude of the project, the board approved the handbook with the understanding that there were 4 policies still being revised: the holiday policy, the child leave policy, references policy, and dress code. Each of these policies has a committee assigned to continue work on the update. The Holiday Policy Committee has completed their work. 3 cheers, they are first. The committee discussed the library's mission, compared our current closure and holiday calendars to other libraries, and considered the impact of making changes to this policy on the recruiting and retaining of library staff. As an organization of lifelong learning, it is proposed that the library should be open on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, and Juneteenth, so that the community will have access to library resources to learn about these days of recognition. The library already transitioned to being open on Veterans Day for a similar reason. These have been paid holidays for full-time staff, and in order to maintain this benefit, it is proposed to transition these to floating holidays, as was done with the transition of Veterans Day. Taking into consideration the closure calendar of libraries in our region, many of which are closed on Easter Sunday, as well as providing flexibility for staff of varying religions, it is proposed that we also transition Good Friday into a floating holiday. So we would be open on Good Friday and Saturday, but closed on Easter Sunday. It would just be a closure, not a paid day. Good Friday is currently the actual holiday, and that would then become a floating holiday, and those who celebrate Easter and Good Friday could take that day off as a paid holiday, and those who maybe celebrate a different religious holiday could have that day for some other purpose. It is proposed that these changes would be implemented on January 1 of 2025. So the closure calendar that's already in play, obviously we were closed on Good Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We would move these into the, yes, we've already had these days and whatever, so these would take effect. So if we were to take this in, if you were to approve this policy, the staff would still have just the 2 floating holidays, and it would move to 5 floating holidays in 2025. So, any questions about any of that?
What's the staff reaction?
The staff that were on the committee, so it was myself and 2 other staff members, thought that it was a good opportunity. Some of the staff that are newer, that have less vacation time, liked the flexibility of it. They liked the idea of, instead of having a random day off in January or February, being able to make a choice. Like January and February is when they feel like they're coming off the holiday season, they're in pretty good shape. March is kind of when they're whining for a closure day. But if you had a floating holiday, then you could choose to take a day in March when you needed a mental health holiday, perhaps, as opposed to some other sort of a holiday.
And just speaking from a part-time person who works a lot of Mondays, and I share a desk, it makes it much easier for me because we're not closed on Mondays. And there's other staff members on other days that are similar, like maybe they're only able to come in certain days and they can't really make up hours anywhere else. So it kind of keeps us a little more regular with our workflow. Because our work still needs to be done, whether or not we're here one day or break.
And so the part-timers aren't really losing hours. We do offer, as she said, the opportunity for our part-timers, if they've got work that needs to be done, to make those hours up elsewhere, because the work still needs to be done, and so they don't lose the money that they might need to pay their rent or whatever else. But at the same time, it sometimes is a challenge.
Well, especially for Nicole and Debbie, because they literally share a desk.
There's a lot of shared space in our back room.
We have a lot of places that are being shared.
Yeah. So
it just makes it so that, like, the day that you're working, you know that spot is available. So, like, could I come in and work at a different spot? Yes.
Yeah.
But it makes it harder because I'm not in my office.
You don't know
Where
where
your
paperwork,
files
yeah.
are.
I have
and-
to go back
right.
and file, go out into the library. So, like, it is nice that there's a couple extra days in there that we're open.
Do we have any concerns about days that were currently vacation days or holidays that would typically be where most of the staff would want it off? Easter Sunday is a great example. That you would have a shortage of staff then if you tried to stay open.
Interestingly, the one that came up that we sort of negotiated, trying to figure out what to do, would be ones that the board could still choose to make a closure without it being a holiday. Mother's Day, for example, was one that we kind of went round and round about that one a little bit, because we have a lot of female staff. We have staff that have mothers. There are a few of us that are not mothers and no longer have mothers, and we always volunteer to work those days. But for others, it can sometimes be a challenge. We are closed on Father's Day because we're closed on Sundays in the summertime. But Mother's Day, we're not, because it's in the middle of May, it's during school season and whatever. The one thing that we struggle with specifically with that day is the fact that the library is such a great place for families to come because there's no cost. So on Mother's Day, we often see Dad bring the kids in so Mom can have some time to herself at home and those kinds of things. So we kind of talked about those sorts of things. There could be room for changes if feedback in the future, after we've done this for a year and staff kind of grumble about this or grumble about that, we could revisit it. But generally speaking, the calendar that we're proposing is what the Rochester Hills Public Library is doing, Auburn Hills Public Library is doing. A number of the neighboring libraries have already moved to this calendar, being open more.
One follow-up question. What's your lowest common denominator? How many staff do you comfortably have to have in the library to be able to feel like I'm good with the doors being open?
So we actually have a policy that states that we have 2 full-time employees in the building at all times that it's open to the public. Plus we have to have somebody at each service desk, and it's written right into the employee handbook. There has to be somebody at the information desk and at the circulation desk. And then we want one person in the back to be able to answer the phones. So
Roughly 5.
Roughly, well, between 4 and 5, because those 2 full-timers could fill some of those roles.
Right.
But we don't want to go with 3. That's
Okay.
not really enough. But 4 or 5, we're usually pretty comfortable. Generally speaking, it's more likely that if we're going to have a problem with coverage, it's not a day that we would know we were going to be closed. It's usually snow or power outages or some other issue.
Some kind of weather-related
Weather-related,
issue.
yeah, weather-related are more of a challenge in that particular
Thank you.
situation.
I am very pleased that the staff is participating in the discussion of what would be best way to serve the community and to make staff happy. So I'm pleased that the staff is participating, that these decisions are not coming down, but are actually having the staff participation.
This particular one we started talking about when Juneteenth was introduced, and we started having conversations about what it means to us, and are we open those days? Are we closed those days? What makes the most sense to us? And over the course of time, the conclusion that we came to, and the conclusion that other libraries were coming to, is that as an entity of lifelong learning, we should be open that day so people can come in and learn more, so that we could have programs and displays and those kinds of things and be available to the public on that day, so that school children coming out of school, that any day we're closed, no matter what the day is, we get phone calls, and days that other places might be closed, for example, Veterans Day where we might be, or Columbus Day where other entities might be closed. We should just simply answer the phone, hello, we're open, because we spend the first part of the day answering that question the most. During COVID, we learned, probably learned this a long time ago, but during COVID, we really learned that when somebody walks up to the library door and pulls on that door and it doesn't open, they are disappointed and they replace us with something else. And during COVID, that was especially true, and sometimes when they find something else, they don't always come back. So being open as much as we possibly can is helpful. But at the same time, we want to provide that flexibility to the staff, which is nice to be able to provide those floating days, and the PTO for our part-timers and that as well. So.
Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Sorry. Easter Sunday.
I move that we maintain the current holiday policy through December 31st, 2024, and start the updated holiday policy effective January 1st, 2025, as it was presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we maintain the current holiday policy through December 31st, 2024, and the updated holiday policy to take effect beginning January 1st, 2025, as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is approved. And thank the committee members for working on that, please.
One of them is right here, so.
Right there. All right.
Yeah.
Now, how about the approval of the closed date calendar?
Well, normally you don't see this till August, but I figured since we were already talking about it, we might as well cross it off the to-do list. So each year the library board is asked to review and approve the library's closed date calendar, and this has been updated to reflect that holiday policy. It does not currently include a closure for staff training day, as we have not determined when that would be in 2025, so we would come back to you with a proposal to that. We really enjoyed the springtime, so I think we might be doing a spring one again next year. We did the fall in previous years. In 2024, the library board approved an early closure to prepare for trunk or treat. This event also has not been set for 2025, so we may also come back and make a request for that in 2025, but that's even further out, so. Any questions about the calendar?
So everyone has the holiday, or the closed calendar policy in front of them. Any other questions? I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the 2025 closed date calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2025 closed date calendar as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Item number 6.
All right, this one you didn't get a chance to read in advance, so we'll go through it as thoroughly as we can. Windstream Enterprise is a vendor that supplies our analog phone lines. Most of the library's phone lines are VoIP. But we maintained 3 analog phone lines when we transitioned to VoIP because there were certain systems that remained analog for security reasons. So one was the security alarm system, 2 was a non-public fax machine line, and 3 was a DTE connection. Recently, we received a notification that the cost of these 3 lines would increase significantly. The bill in April was $281. The bill in May was $5,200.
Yeah, that's significant.
That is huge. So we took this opportunity to investigate whether these once-needed analog lines must remain. We are now able to eliminate these lines, but unfortunately, we're not able to completely migrate them before the cost increase took effect. This invoice is before the board because it does exceed $5,000. These phone lines were budgeted item, but not at this new rate. The budget adjustment would be needed to accommodate the cost, but at this point, it is unclear what the final cost will be because it looks like we will be responsible for this May bill of $5,229.94, but we are in the process of migrating these lines, and in my opinion, I would like to object to the next one because they've already sent us the June bill of another $5,259.94.
Did we get warning on this?
In your packet, you will see there's a tiny little warning. I have highlighted it for you. On the April bill, there's a tiny little thing that says, notice of rate increase within the next 30 to 60 days, your monthly billing statement will reflect a T1 TDM connectivity charge up to $10,000 per DS1 circuit and a DSO TDM connectivity charge up to $1,500 per DSO circuit. It was there. We did not realize the magnitude of what it was.
How could you?
There's little announcements there every month.
1,500 per POTS line.
I wouldn't have known what a DS.
We don't have, I don't have a DSO circuit or a, those, I don't have those, they're not on my bill.
Shame on them.
Well, they're not, I was looking at the itemized bills, and yeah, there's nothing on my bill prior to this month, the $5,200 a month, that name was anywhere there.
I wonder if a complaint can't be filed against the Public Utilities Commission.
I was
I
thinking
think that
exactly
this
the
is
same thing.
bordering on
This
illegal
is-
what they've done.
This
That
is,
is,
It's really something.
This is
I think that,
unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
I would love for us to follow up and see what the
I
complaint
agree.
method
Hear,
should be. It's egregious.
well, look at the monthly charge. The monthly charge is over $4,700.
Well, and if it's not brought to the public's attention and the government's attention,
There's no separate
these
letter
characters will be able
alerting
to
you.
carry on like this.
No.
Well, there was a time which analog was important, because when cell phones first came in, or those freestanding lines came in, analog still worked during storms, where everything else might be
Right.
down,
Yep.
which was a reason for keeping landlines. But once they transitioned to digital, that help went away.
Well, the lines still work, I mean, it still does that.
Yes.
But the issue becomes, the carriers no longer want to support those, they want to move forward with all digital everything.
Yes.
To keep the stuff, so their connectivity, they have to find a way to connect these analog lines to the rest of the world. And so that's where this stuff seems to be coming from. But yes, I mean, it's
just-
very vague.
Well, it seems so unlikely that in 1 month, it only costs $250 to provide this connectivity, and all of a sudden, it's over $5,000?
So then immediately upon receiving that first bill, I put it away for a day, because I wasn't going to yell at anybody yet. So then I picked it up the following morning and made a phone call to Windstream to speak with their billing department, et cetera, and their tech support. I said, this is what's happened, what should I do? The technician's actual words were, port your lines out and shut down your account, it's just gonna get worse. Literally, those were the words he gave me.
Okay.
I said, okay, thank you very much. Hung up the phone and immediately started that process.
Yeah.
So, the problem with the porting process is, because they're phone companies, they can do it at their own leisure. So it takes a period of time to do this.
Oh, 30 to 60
That is-
days.
What's that?
30 or 60 days,
Yes,
thank God.
between 1 to 2 months
Yeah.
for me to move these lines, and even to cancel them. It takes 30 to 60 days to cancel. They're called POTS, P-O-T-S,
Yeah.
plain old telephone system lines. It takes up to 60 days to cancel a line. So upon researching these lines as we went through, 2 of the 3 lines are actually no longer necessary. So those 2 are being canceled and canceled as fast as possible. The 3rd line, which is actually the fax line, that's the one that we still do need to keep, but can be converted to a digital line through our new provider by selling us an adapter. So that's the direction I went immediately upon that. Started the process for, like I said, the single port and the two cancellations. So yes, I was particularly displeased when that happened.
Well, I mean, I understand costs going up, I get it. And I understand they don't really want to mess with it, I get that too. But it seems to me that their cost didn't suddenly jump like that. So,
I don't know, I don't work for that company.
well,
but,
I know, but it, I mean, it,
But, you know, and then, yes, this very minimal warning.
Right, that
Right.
was very minimal warning.
Right.
And this is from a company that sends me 2 pieces of mail every single month. 2 separate pieces of mail. One is a statement, one is an invoice, that are identical except for that word. Every month, they send me 2 of them. Same day, 2 different envelopes come in from this company. So that's just weird to me.
Yeah.
It's frustrating that it's so varied like that.
Yeah, it was not very, as I said, it was not very well communicated.
no, I mean, I know it says important messages, but
But there's a message there
And
every month.
every month, they have important messages, which
Long
are
messages.
not
Right.
important.
right.
Again,
And I
I
don't
just
feel
think we
like
need
this,
to follow
this
up with
exactly
the
says you're
Civil
going to.
Service Commission.
No, we go with we go to the commission, and what we need to check with our attorney to see if we are legitimately
Responsible.
claiming about the bill, if we are held responsible for it, and it can't accrue interest if we don't pay it tomorrow. Because once we pay it, we're sunk. That's our
Like
problem.
Bill said, it's still technically active right now because they haven't shut it off.
Even though you canceled
But
it.
So
you
that
can-
could be technically almost a 3rd bill because like we just got the 2nd one.
But we
So-
can also go to the commission because, you know, they are allowed 30 to 60 days to cut off your service. But realistically, does it take 30 to 60 days for most companies? No. And, no, they
Which
don't need
makes it
30 or
look like
60
price
days.
gouging.
You pull the plug in the story. So, yeah, we need to check with the attorney if we
Okay.
have an official complaint against it, how liable we are until this is settled.
Because then we're looking at 15,000.
That's $15,000.
I mean, this could,
We were arguing whether a $5,000 investment for plug-in, and here we can burn through 15 grand
Right.
just like that.
in 3 months.
Yep.
I mean, this could, think of the programs as a good kill.
But we felt like the board needed to know about this, not
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
not just put it on the consent agenda where it would get
No,
approved
thank
as
you
a
for bringing
payment.
it to our
so-
attention.
If you're not
I do
familiar
think
with the
we-
commission, I will help you because
Okay.
I can drive to their offices in Lansing, so, yeah.
And like what you were just saying, though, the first time, if we pay the first one, we just
We're
set
sunk.
precedent.
We're sunk.
We just set precedent, and we're.
That's right.
Nope,
Right.
looks like you're gonna be paying these bills, so.
And it may be
I see what you're saying.
our lawyer says, writes us a
Mhm.
letter and saying blah, 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 you know, and that
This is
that
what
gets
you
us
get,
out of
we're
it.
done.
Yeah, because we don't want to have accrue
And
interest.
it's not
we
even
don't
10 times what a regular bill is. I mean,
No.
Yeah.
like, you can't even, you know,
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's 1,500 per line connection, a connection fee
that will be paid.
that will be paid every month. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No.
No.
it's
Who knows?
egregious.
Just no.
And there's consumer protection for reasons like this.
Yes, yeah. So definitely that's where it needs to go.
Okay.
So the board feeling is pursue this.
Yeah, and I do think we have to figure out what our penalty for, if we postpone our payment to them, you know, if we're fighting the charge and all of that. Let's
Yeah.
just get clear on our facts, because I'd hate to have interest on $5,000, and that's not
Right.
gonna change our,
Should we then
yeah, so.
approve to pay it if the attorney says, yeah, you're gonna have to pay it? If we have already pre-approved it, then we don't have to come back next month.
Or before next
The
month.
problem
Yeah.
is that once we
I'd
pay
like-
it, we are so.
No, I'm not saying pay it, I'm saying approve it with the contingency that if the attorney says, no, you gotta pay that.
I'd be comfortable approving, giving Julie the discretion to proceed as she needs to settle the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Word a motion like that, so that way we can have that.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion
Yes.
to give Julie Meredith the ability to resolve this situation over the Windstream Enterprise bill at her discretion.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve to give Julie the ability to
Resolve the
negotiate- resolve-
Windstream Enterprise billing at her discretion.
To resolve the
Right.
enterprise billing to her, at her
Right.
discretion.
That works because it's either going to be resolved by finding out that, no, you only have to pay this much smaller amount.
I think
or
it'll
we're
be
gonna told that
fast-moving
we have to
facts, so
pay
we
it.
should.
I would rather not hold the payment up.
Yes, so give
And
her
I
the
will,
ability.
I will keep you updated on how it's going. I won't leave you in the dark till the next
Thank you.
meeting. If there's
Yeah.
something big that happens, watch your email. I will send you messages.
Thank
So-
you.
One settlement might be.
Go get 'em.
No, we pay it once, and then the 30 to 60-day clock is their problem, because we gave them up front
Yeah.
and said, we just got it, this is the way it works, this is a one-time deal,
Yep.
clean it up, and they'll probably pull the plug tomorrow if you do that.
And so the process has already started. I mean, it began, I don't even remember what date it was, but
Right.
Well, we need to keep those dates, because the attorney will need to know those dates, because
Yep.
we may need to have.
Because actually, they
a
didn't give us
letter
60
written.
days. They didn't give us 60 days, it was 30 to 60 days. They
They
didn't
did it
waste,
right at 30.
they didn't waste a second.
no, they did not.
No,
Okay, any other comments before we vote? All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion is carried. Thank you. Good luck, Julie.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Bill,
Yeah,
that you will be working on this together.
get your fight on.
At that happy moment, I will be accepting a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion is passed. We adjourn at, 7:33 from my angle. Thank you all.